Welcome to the Robyn Graham Show, the podcast for purpose-driven women who want to achieve sustainable success without having to be on social media. Hey, beautiful friends, welcome back to another episode of the Robyn Graham Show. Today, we are going to talk about monetizing your email list. So, we've had several episodes before talking about lead gen, how to bring people into your email list, everything from lead magnets, those freebies that you see people producing, and that I'm sure you all have done as well, in addition to summits and things like that for actually growing your list. So, today we're going to focus on how to monetize that list. You've probably heard people say email marketing is dead, but the reality is it's not dead. It's actually such an incredible way for you to stay front of mind with your current audience and to bring them in for conversion to actually generate revenue. So that's our conversation today. And with me is Allison Hardy, and I am very happy to have her here. And I think you guys are going to learn a lot, as am I. So without further ado, Allison Hardy, welcome to the Robyn Graham Show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, Allison, what brought you to this point in your journey?
Postpartum depression. That's
And we
why
need a
I got
drum roll, please.
That's why I got super sold on email marketing because I was building a business as a very new mom. And like the hustling, the staying up all night long, the working hard, the not working hard, the working unnecessarily hard, the burning the candle at both ends. It didn't work when I was suffering from postpartum depression. And I had to like burned out so that I could kind of like rebuild it. So I built a pretty successful business like really quickly, but it was done through all of that, through hustling and grinding and pulling all-nighters and all of that. And it just didn't work. So as quickly as it went up, it like came crashing down around me because I couldn't hang. I like couldn't withstand what I had built.
Mhm.
So I got super sold on email marketing because like life was happening. I was dealing with postpartum depression and I just needed something that still got the job done, that still sold my stuff without me having to like show up and, present live and do the high pressure launch and do the video. Like I couldn't do anything live during that season of life. So I got really sold on email marketing. And then I was always like, oh, I'll just go back to the other model. And I never really went back because I was like, why would I go back if this works?
Absolutely. Why? That's a great question. Why do we take the path of the greatest resistance, the hardest work, the hustle, when there are other ways to do things? And where you know this because you and I have had conversations before, but I'm so about not investing our heart and soul in social media because it could go away at any point in time. Plus, it leads to so many other, you mentioned depression, it leads to anxiety, it leads to imposter syndrome, comparison, all of those negative things and overthinking. So if we could do something in a simpler way and reach more people and have it convert to actual dollars in our bank account, why would we not do that?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times we choose the path of the hardest path first is because of our 9 to 5 mentality. If we've been in a
Mhm.
9 to 5 prior to becoming an entrepreneur, like our time is tied to dollars.
It
So we
is.
bring that mindset into the online business and we think, okay, like we have to show up at a certain place and a certain time because that's what you're wired to do to make money. And
Hmm.
so when you can like wrap your head around that you don't have to do that anymore and then you can kind of prove it to yourself through email marketing, it just it's so counter to how we've been taught and to how we've been programmed to make money. And so I think a lot of people, honestly, when they first dig into email marketing, they start to feel like anxious because they're like, I'm not like it's just running for me in the background and I'm not actively doing anything anymore. So like what do I do? I have a lot of clients say that. Like, what do I do? I'm like, well, it's time to do other things. Like you can work on that passion project or start that podcast or, whatever the thing is that you want to do. And I really think it's like I was talking about this other day with a friend. Like I really think it's like counter culture, what we're
Hmm.
doing in the online space with email marketing.
Hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, okay, we have a list, and it's funny because if you're brand new to entrepreneurship, you may not have a big list. But you
Right.
don't have to have a big list if you have an engaged list and a list that of people who are already warm, you've nurtured them, they trust you, and you're building a relationship with them. So I'm going to turn it over to you to have you tell us more about how we can actually monetize that list. What are those activities? What are those strategies?
Yeah. Back in the day when we first started our business, when I first started my business, probably like 2000, I don't know, 17 or so, 2015, around that time, we were told like just give insane value, just value, 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 value all the time. And you'll prove to your audience that you're like worthy enough for them to buy from you. And while that mentality worked back then, it no longer works. People need short snippets to help them get quick wins, mindset shifts. And we don't have to necessarily barrage them with a ton of value anymore because our attention spans are different. We're buying differently now. And so your email marketing needs to adjust for that. So, what I'm a big fan of is strategic content that is dripped out over a series of time, however long it takes to get the job done. And the job is to justify the need for your program, for whatever that thing is that you want them to buy. So you have the lead magnet, and then you need to bring your audience, your subscribers, your email list subscribers on a journey with you through strategically delivered content that nurtures them, that again provides that mindset shift, that maybe gives them something to do because we like to do things, but gets them like in your wheelhouse, gets them to thinking like you are the person to help them. You help them do this very specific thing, and ideally they want to solve that thing because you've attracted them through the right lead magnet. And then once you've done all of that, you can put them into a strategically designed pitch sequence. But it's no longer like, let's give them the podcast episode I was on. And oh, I wrote this great blog post. And then right here's this Instagram live I did. Like, it doesn't need to be that. It just needs to be a very strategically curated content that you're creating specifically for these people.
Now, do you have a roadmap that you recommend using or some sort of a reference point for creating this content that we're dripping out?
Yeah, I always encourage my clients to like map out where the person is when they download the lead magnet. And
Mhm.
then what do they need to do, be, have, understand in order for them to say yes to your program? And so when you have those two endpoints and then you can fill in the middle points, those are your individual emails right there. So you're going to create content for each one of those pieces of or you're going to create an email for each one of those pieces of content. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Can you give us some examples? So, um, let's say we have a woman who's starting her business. Let's just use my business as an example. I think that
Yep.
that will be great. So we have the lead magnet, the five crucial strategies to start and grow your business for sustainable success without social media. So that brings people in because they're starting a business. They want to do so off social media. They want the strategies to do this effectively so that it's sustainable.
Mhm.
So we bring them in, they're on the email list. Now what?
Yeah. So what I would actually do is I would take all five of those things that you just mentioned and make an email for each of them. So you're going to take like, what's point number one in that lead magnet?
Now I'm on the spot. I think it's build a personal brand. You know what? I should pull it. I should actually pull it up and see. But
Yeah.
I think
So
it's,
that's a good
you
starting
start
point.
with the personal brand, you differentiate yourself and you identify your soulmate client, I think are the first two that are that on that lead magnet.
Yeah. So if it's build a personal brand, I'm sure you described that a bit in that lead magnet. But what I
Mm-hmm.
want you to do is film a video of you working them through it because video
Ah.
converts differently than text.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're paying attention to the emails, they're going to want to consume these pieces of video because it's taking the concepts that you're talking about in the lead magnet and you're going deeper. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really easy one to kind of like pull apart because you've already laid out the five. You clearly
Yeah.
know that these people want to know these five things. And so
Mm-hmm.
you can make a video that goes deeper on those topics through each email in the nurture sequence.
Okay, so for someone that's sitting here thinking, well, yeah, but we already have the ebook with those five things. So these emails would go to the entire list, not just to the people that had downloaded that ebook. Is that what you're saying?
No, it'll go to the people who have downloaded that lead
To
magnet.
everyone. Okay. And that brings us to that, what you mentioned about the attention span and the fact that we need to see things 7 to 21 times in order to remember them.
Yes. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So even
Okay.
if they're consuming the ebook, the
Uh-huh.
way that you will film a video and present that information is different. Even though it's coming from you and
Mm-hmm.
you're creating the content, it's still going to hit differently because it's a different modality. There's reading versus, watching a video.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll get more out of the videos, even though you're probably going to say very similar things as to what you share in the ebook. And that's okay. We do not need to overwhelm people with a ton of content, with a ton of value. And we need to say the same thing over and over and over again. And for us, that feels really, really boring. But for
Yeah.
the person that's consuming that, they're not you. They are in the weeds. They're trying to do the thing that you're helping them to do. So sometimes they need to hear the same thing from you over and over and over again. That creates really consistent messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I love that. And so once we do that and we drip this out, at what point in that drip, the email sequence that we're sending out like that, at what point do we ask people to purchase? And do we
Yeah.
straight out ask them to purchase, or is it like, on the webinars when people are selling on the webinars and they're like, I'm just asking you to get on a call. I'm not selling you. I'm just asking you to get on a call. But really, you know that once you get on that call, you're going to be sold to. So is it similar to that, or are we going straight in, you can get all of these five things with my eyes in your business, you know, if we work
Yes,
together.
that's what we're
So
gonna
are
do.
you ready? Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do the latter part.
Okay.
So you're gonna directly, I'm a big fan of like Brene Brown says, like clear is kind. So like let's just
Yeah.
be transparent up front here.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have, if you do the 5 videos, the 5 emails, in that last video, you could either do this in the last video or you record a sixth video that like opens the door to your program. So you can say things like, if you found the 5 videos that you just watched super helpful, but you're still missing like the implementation, because that's really the key to any program, right? Is like the implementation, the doing it, the accountability. If you know that that's what you need, then I have this program for you. It's called XYZ. And then you go into like the details of the program and you make them an offer in that video. So you can get $100 off when you enroll in the next 3 days. I don't know what your offer is, but like that's an example of one.
Hmm.
And then you put them into a pitch sequence. So ideally, what's happening is that those people have watched that video, they're aware of the program, and now they've kind of given you permission to start to pitch them. So
Hmm.
I would recommend a series of emails, short and sweet, like make it simple, that just delivers the offer, talks about testimonials, talks about your story, debunks objections, and invites them to join the program. And I want you, I also think it's really important to think about the word inviting. So instead of like pitching someone or selling to someone, you're just inviting them to join your
Hmm.
program. And they can say yes or they can say no, and that's fine. But I think a lot of times we get really wrapped up in this idea of like, I have to hard pitch them, I have to sell them. And you don't. You can just
No.
invite them to join the program. They're adults, they can say yes or no.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so you did mention, because my next question was going to be, at what point do we handle the objections? So we do
Mm.
the 5 or 6,
Yeah.
and then we go into the pitch, where the pitch emails, not actually pitching, but we're going to title them pitch emails. And those are more specifics about the program, but including addressing those objections. So we're not talking about just a handful of emails. We're actually talking about strategically doing like 10 to probably close to 15. Is that 10 to 12 anyway?
Yeah, I always recommend that. I have a 7 email pitch sequence process that I teach. So you need to make sure you have each of the 7 at some point inside of your pitch sequence. So it depends, like the how many emails and like the length of your emails and the length of the actual sequence depends on your offer. But like I have a pitch sequence that's pretty sure it's 18 emails long, which is fine. And then I have another pitch sequence that's 7 emails long. So it just depends on like what the actual offer is. But the main function of the pitch sequence is to debunk objections.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to address the different types of buyers and the unique objections that they have. The function of the sales page is to educate them on the actual program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, okay. I'm glad you mentioned the sales page, and I'll link an episode that we had on creating a sales page and what goes into a sales page. And obviously, those objections are key. So, when you mention addressing the different type of buyers and the different types of objections, how do you approach that? Like, how does someone approach that from, a strategic perspective? But obviously, if you have a business, you have to know who it is that you help, who it is that is your soulmate person, your ideal client, best fit person. Like, once you know that, do because it's hard to get into other people's heads. And sometimes, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to object to the money, but it could be they're objecting to time. So how do you learn to read that, and then how do you? Well, I'll answer that, and then I'll come back.
Yeah, yeah. So there's seven different types of buyers in everyone's audience. An example of one is like the no fluff person, and that's me. Like I don't need if I'm like in your funnel, like I know I'm in a funnel and I'm probably already I got in your funnel so that I could buy your thing. So like I don't need a lot of details. I know
Mm-hmm.
that I want the program. I've probably already done my research on you. Like we're good. So just tell me what the offer is and I'll buy it from you. So I'm like that type of person. But
Mm-hmm.
not everybody in my audience is like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some people in my audience. We all have the second type of buyer, like the details person. I am not a details person. Like I do not need details. But a lot of my people are details. So when I write an email to those people, I do like a frequently asked questions email because like
Mm-hmm.
odds are if anyone in my network, I probably have these people that have lots of questions. Or these are the people that have lots of questions. So like the frequently asked questions email, I think what's really important is if you get a lot of people asking you like how many hours should I expect to spend on uh your program a week, let's say that's the question you get a lot and you're answering that in this email, of course you're going to answer it, you're going to say 3 hours, but then like why is that the question that these people are asking? So can you dig a little bit deeper? Do they have like little kids at home? Does their spouse travel a lot? Are they taking care of maybe an adult parent? Do they work a 9 to 5? Like, what's the thing that's causing them to be concerned about the time? And so when you answer that question, you're then going to talk about something inside of your program that helps them to speed up their results.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still going to have to put the time in, but maybe it'll get up and running faster because of this tool that you have. So, like knowing the seven different types of buyers can be really helpful when you're writing the emails because then you can talk about, the specific objections that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you see that there's a difference between a high ticket offer and a low ticket offer? And do you do the same process for like an online course?
Yeah, there is a difference. It's not huge, but there's a difference. So with a course, let's say it's under $500, you can very easily sell that, not easily sell that. You can sell that through like a 3-day sequence. You do not need a long sequence whatsoever for under
Mm-hmm.
500. Now, if it's like a mastermind that's like $1,500 a month for a year, that's a significantly different investment and a
Mm-hmm.
significantly different type of relationship that you will have with that person. So that nurture sequence might be longer. It might have more like masterclass style content. Your pitch sequence, the call to action is probably going to be different. It's going to be like apply now or like applications are open. For something like that, I would do like a week-long application process so that there's time for people to actually get the applications in. But a lot of times, like people just really keep the cart open for way too long. That's like a big mistake I see. There's no need to have an open cart period that's like longer than a week, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that because I think people lose interest after a while. And if they're not going to buy within that time frame, most likely they're not going to come back and say, "Oh, I forgot to click buy."
Yeah, you're keeping them in decision fatigue by not like closing the cart. You're like they're going over and over and over in their head like, is this right for me? I don't know, blah 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 blah. So like they get exhausted and then they're like, nope, like they're not gonna buy when they're in that state of mind. So like just keep it short. Just tell them you have 3 hours left, you have a day left, you have 2.5 days left, whatever the thing is. Just be clear and upfront with how much time they have left.
Yeah. And do you suggest a specific time that's better than others to avoid that decision fatigue? Like 3 days would be optimal, or is 7 days an average? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it depends on the price point of the program. For like a 500 and under price point, you could do 3 days easily.
Yeah.
But for something that's higher ticket, like maybe a week would be appropriate. But each day you're sending out more than one email. So like you're going to be writing a lot of emails.
Yeah. So to the person who doesn't like to write, do you have specific strategies that you use or that you teach your clients to use to make that writing process easier?
Yeah, inside of my program, Funnel of the Month Club, we have templates for our clients to like plug and play. And we just rolled out a brand new AI assistant that I wrote myself, which is really cool.
That's so
That has,
cool.
yeah, it is really cool. I'm very proud of it. It has those templates that I mentioned that you can plug and play programmed into them. So you can plug your information into Polly and she will generate it for you and then spit it out for you. Um, so yeah, so I know that time is a big thing. I know that not everybody loves to write. So it's my hope, my intention through my program that we can really help our clients cut down on that writing process and make it easier for them.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love that one of my clients just did that for herself. She's a systems and
Yes.
process person, and she just created her own AI thing as
Yeah.
well. Just so cool.
Yeah. I'm creating them for my clients and I'm also like creating them for myself. And it's been like, it is not something I ever thought I would ever do in my business or like learn how to do or even want. But holy guacamole, it's been like eye-opening what I can do with AI. So it's been cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when we talked about those five initial, maybe six as we introduced the program, but those emails and they're short and sweet and they're video content. So when we get to the pitch sequence, are these emails longer and are should we do videos for those as well, or should we write them?
So part of what I teach is creating a culture of clicking. So the reason why in the beginning, in the nurture sequence, we have videos that you're going to click on to listen to or to watch is because if you're going to ask someone to buy something, they're going to have to click on it again.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to create a culture of just people getting used to clicking on your emails. So that's why I recommend video in the beginning. It also helps to create that know, like, and trust factor really like
Mm-hmm.
strongly, especially if
Yeah.
like your people get you in your program. They need to see like your mannerisms, your weird eye things you do, the way you say things. Like they need to be familiar with you so that when they get on a call with you, they're not like surprised.
Yeah.
Um, so that's super important. That's one of the reasons why we do that inside of the nurture sequence. In the pitch sequence, you want them clicking, but you want them going to the sales page. You don't want them going anywhere else except for the sales page.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put a video on the sales page for sure, because then they'll be like, oh, wait, that's her again.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a fan of putting other like pieces of content in the pitch sequence because the whole function of the pitch sequence is to get them over to the sales page.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note here because we mentioned the sales pages. On the sales page, you don't want to have any other options for CTAs on that page outside of buy because, or book a call or apply, whatever your call to action is. But you don't want to send them to a blog post or to another page on your website or to a referenced page off your site. You want to
Yeah.
make sure that that link is solely to however they're going to achieve the goal of working with you.
Yes, you control the conversation, and that goes for those emails too. The nurture sequence, you're only driving traffic to that gosh darn video. In the pitch sequence, you're only driving traffic to the sales page because, again, think about it, it's a launch. So you want to make sure that you're curating these pieces of content and that they're getting the information that they need to say yes to the program.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, are there any other strategies that we should apply or employ or whatever in our email marketing strategy to get people to buy? And okay, I guess actually before you answer me, because this just thought came to my mind, how
Uh-huh.
often do we do this sequence? Like how often do we do this five email sequence, or do we just mix it up and do we rinse it and repeat it, or do we recreate it? And what time frame?
Yeah, I'm a super big fan of rinsing and repeating it because of what we said earlier. People have to hear the same thing from us over and over again. I do a live webinar every 2 weeks, and I have people who've signed up for that gosh darn thing like 3, 4 times before they buy. It's literally the same webinar over same like it's the same thing. And I've asked them like, hey, I like will email them, hey, I see that you have watched this webinar 3 times. Why did you buy in the third time? And they were like, I just needed to get more from you. And I was like, but it's the same. And I say, like, it's the same webinar. So what was more? They're like, I don't know, just like more contact, more one-on, more like interaction. I just needed a little bit more time with you. So yes, we need to wash and repeat it. I would say if you're doing it to your whole email list, you could probably wash and repeat it every quarter. But if you attach it to your lead magnet, they can just come in off of the lead magnet onto it, and it's a launch there in and of itself.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's actually the lead magnet can be twofold. It can bring them in to
Yes.
nurture them. It can bring them straight into that sales. I don't like to use the word funnel, but at the same time, this pitch series is sort of a funnel. Like they're
It's
coming
what it
in.
is. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
cool.
you're taking them on a journey.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well that's good to know. Okay, so you mentioned that you do the live webinars. So the live launch method is pretty much that you're doing. So are you launching? Are you tell me how you're using that? Like obviously, are you using that to grow your list as lead gen, or are you using that to actually sell your product?
So how my funnel works is Facebook ad to a lead magnet. Lead magnet puts them into a nurture sequence. Nurture sequence puts them into a pitch sequence. If they buy off of that pitch sequence, they're put into an onboarding sequence, right? They're removed from that funnel and put into another one.
Mm-hmm,
If
mm-hmm,
they don't buy off of the pitch sequence, then they get a series of emails that invites them to the I call it a master class, to the master class. If they opt into that, they're put into the master class nurture sequence until it goes live and then pitch sequence from there. If they don't opt into that, they're put into what I call a re-engagement sequence, which is a whole other thing we could talk about another time.
mm-hmm,
But so that lead gen, I'm not generating leads directly to the master class. I'm generating leads to that lead magnet. And it's my thought that the people who don't buy off of that, they need something else from me. So
mm-hmm,
that's why after that first initial pitch sequence, I invite them to that master class. Because those are people who've seen the offer, they've watched the videos, they're familiar, and for whatever reason, they didn't buy. So
mm-hmm,
what can I do to really serve them? And it's an hour-long live master class every 2 weeks or so.
mm-hmm. Wow, okay, that's great. I love this.
Yeah.
It goes and I love it because you keep saying they go into this sequence. It's all automated. Like it's I in my brain I've got these workflows. I'm seeing all these workflows
Yeah.
and moving to another one and this, that, and the other. So I think this is where we talk so much. If you want to grow your business, you have to have systems and processes in place, those SOPs, those automations, all those things, because otherwise it's all so time intensive. You would be right back to where you were with the depression because you would be so overwhelmed and burned out.
Yeah, exactly. And your business, if you want it to grow, actually has to work for you because when it works for you, it works for everyone else.
Hmm.
So like I landed on this strategy. I landed on what this is after like doing it over and
Hmm.
over and over again and testing and tweaking. So, I created it once and I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And so I really leaned into the data and like added some other things. I was like, it was a whole process, took a little bit of time, but like now it runs like clockwork in the background. And I know that it converts at a certain amount. So I feel comfortable spending a ton of money on Facebook ads so that people can get into it because I know what it's going to produce on the other end. And so for
Hmm.
me, that's like a win-win situation.
Something you said though too is you designed the method and you tested it. And so you could actually you had the proof, you had the data, but you
Yeah.
actually looked at the data to make sure it was working the way you wanted it to work.
Yes. And then what happened was people were like, how are you doing this? And I was like, well, I made this crazy thing. And then that's where, how my business pivoted really into like teaching other people how to do email marketing like this.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's solely what you do now.
Solely what I do now. It's wild.
Yeah. That's amazing. And do
Yeah.
people hire you to actually do the entire strategy and everything for them?
Yeah, I do done for you work, and then I have a membership that teaches you how to do it.
Yeah, that's great. It's something that and I love that you said that it's beyond just sending out like a weekly update. It's giving that meat and, the nuts and bolts of something to be able to do and take action on. And it's video is so intimidating to people.
It is.
So,
Yep.
but I think it would be easier to create a video to embed into an email compared to going live on Instagram or LinkedIn or something.
Or you could just go live on Instagram or LinkedIn and then just save the video and use it for your funnel.
And use it for the funnel. So you're
Like you
killing
can
two
do
birds with
that.
one stone. Yeah,
We're
exactly.
allowed.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get like caught up in like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect and I have to like have all the right things, I have to say the right things at the right time. Like if you're already going live, that's like something you already do. Just create a new video for it
Yeah.
and put it in your funnel. Like make it easy on yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I used
Yeah.
to do that all the time when I had the Facebook group, and I would go live in the
Yep.
Facebook group, and that video that could then be repurposed to so many places. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously YouTube, and that's what I was going to ask you too. Is that where you house your videos then? Is YouTube, or do you use a different video platform to house the videos that you're putting in your emails?
I do, but I embed them on my website because we want to keep the traffic on our in our world. So like the
Yeah,
video I guess it's hosted by
yeah,
YouTube, but then I embed it on a page on my website. And I would recommend everyone do that. You don't want to drive traffic to YouTube. You don't own it. You own your
yeah.
website.
Right.
So if we're talking like a more advanced Facebook ad strategy, you can put a pixel on it and then you can
Yeah,
retarget people. And
yeah.
it's a great way to increase conversions.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you create, so that brings me to another question then from a logistics perspective, do you don't house those videos, all of them on a sales page. You house those videos on a separate page. So do you write like is it like a vlog then, or is
Okay.
it a hidden page that they only access once they've clicked from the email?
It's a hidden page, so you
Yeah.
can't access it from like anywhere on my website.
Yeah.
Like
Do
if
you
you just
go,
go to my page, you can't like find it in there. It's just
right.
a hidden.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a hidden page. Do you go to the do you take the effort to do SEO on those pages? I'm just curious. I'm asking for myself now.
I
No.
totally don't. No,
Yeah. I don't think it's necessary.
no, because like you don't want people to find step three in your 5-step process if it like
Right.
really is important that people consume it
Yeah.
sequentially. Because then that makes like literally no sense to
No
them.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, this was awesome. Thank you, Allison.
you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great. Tell the listeners how they can learn more from you or even hire you.
Yeah, so you can go to my website, AllisonHardy.com. I do have a free gift. It's called the $80,000 email template. It's the email that was directly responsible for $80,000 in sales this year. So if you download it, it'll give you like a plug and play template. You'll get an example of it. You'll learn a little about you will learn a little bit about the strategy and why it was so helpful. And then, yes, you will be entered into a email funnel. You better believe it. But you can find it at AllisonHardy.com/80000 email.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. This was a great conversation. Listeners, please be sure you go to the show notes because we will have a lot of different links to different episodes or previous episodes that you can get additional information on email marketing. But I also encourage you to follow Allison and, connect with her, get on her email list. I mean, my goodness, you're going to learn exactly how to do this just by being there. So super great. And if you found this information helpful, please leave us a rating and review because that's how I can continue to get great guests like Allison on the show and serve more people. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you all next time. And that's a wrap, friends. A heartfelt thank you for being here. I know there are many other ways that you could spend your time, so I truly appreciate you joining me. And be sure and visit the website, therobyngraham.com/resources for a plethora of resources to help you grow your business for long-term success.